Now we're going to go back to these same composite shapes that we looked at with surface area, and we're going to look at them with volume. So remember, a composite shape is when you have two shapes squished together. So in this case, we've got a cylinder down here and a hemisphere at the top. I think it's way easier to do composite shapes with volume than surface area because we don't have to worry about getting rid of part of that formula. The volume measures how much stuff is on the inside. So just because I put something on top of it does not change how much is inside that cylinder. It still can hold the same amount. So I think these work a lot better than the surface areas did, or I guess a lot easier. Again, I think the key is to make sure and be organized. So a cylinder is the equation is pi, and then it's our radius squared, and then that's going to be times our height. So pi times radius squared times our height. And I'm going to want my answers left as pi. So make sure and leave that pi in there. So in this case, all the way across is 3. So that's the diameter. Halfway across is going to be 1.5. So that's going to give me pi, again, times 1.5. And I'm going to square that. And then times it by my height, which is 5. Typing that in my calculator, that's going to give me 11.25 pi. And you use that nice pretty little pi symbol there. Now I've got to come and do the hemisphere. So the formula for a hemisphere is a little bit more complicated. It is 4/3 pi r cubed. So 4/3 times pi times r cubed. Now my radius is 1.5, so I'm going to plug that in. So it's 4/3 times pi times 1.5 cubed. And then, since it's a hemisphere, I have to take that whole thing and divide it by half because it's a hemisphere. A sphere, you don't have to do that. So this work would look like 4/3. I'm going to multiply that by pi. Then I'm going to multiply that by my radius, which is 1.5. I'm going to square that. I'm going to divide the whole thing by 2. Now, there are lots of different ways to deal with this dividing by 2. Some people like to go ahead and do 4/3 divided by 2, which is going to give you 4/6. You can go ahead and do that. Keep it as 4/6. Reduce that down to 2/3. Some people like to go ahead and type all this in. Leave that pi. Don't type in 3.14, but leave the pi symbol. And then take your answer and divide by 2. Lots of different ways to progress from here. I'm not super picky, whatever way works best for you. But if you type all this in, the whole thing, I don't like where I put that. If we type all of this in, however you want to take care of that fraction within a fraction, you're going to get 2.25 pi. So then I'm going to take my two answers here. I've got the answer there, and I've got this answer here. Now I'm going to add those two together. So kind of run out of room here. So 11.25 pi plus the 2.25 pi. And that's going to give me my final answer of, all right, let's get our picture back. That's going to give me my final answer of 13.5 pi. And then we're going to make sure put the units on there. That's going to be centimeters cubed because we're dealing with volume. So all of our answers are going to be centimeters cubed. And this is my final answer. All right, let's do one more composite shape. Again, it's that same ice cream cone that we looked at before we did surface area. The radius is halfway across, so the radius is 3. And the great news is this was the height. Last time we worked it, we needed the lateral height right here, so we had to use the Pythagorean theorem. We don't need that today, so it's going to make it a lot easier. We've got two different shapes that we need to find, so I'm going to start with the cone. So with my cone, the formula is 1/3 pi r squared h. So I'm going to plug in 3 for r and 13 for h. So I do 1/3 pi 3 squared, and then h is 13. So I do 3 squared times 13 times 1/3, and that's going to give me 39 pi. So that's my answer for the cone. Then I'm going to come do the hemisphere. We'll change colors for it. So a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, and then because it's a hemisphere, I have to divide that, whatever answer I get, by 2. Again, however, some people leave it like this. Some people write it as 4/6 pi r cubed. Some people write it as 2/3 pi r cubed. Doesn't really matter to me how you handle it. Just somehow you have to think about how you want to deal with that hemisphere formula. The radius is 3 for this one, so I'm just going to plug it in. I'm just going to leave the formula like this, so I don't lose people with dealing with the fraction, but you do what is comfortable for you. So if I do 3 cubed, multiply that by 4/3, and then divide that by 2, that's going to give me, or however you want to type in your calculator, that's going to give me 18 pi. So I'm going to take my 39 pi from my cone and my 18 pi from my hemisphere, and I am going to add those together to get my final answer. So let's see, 39 pi plus 18 pi. It's going to give me 57 pi, and the units for this one again are centimeters cubed. So that is my final answer for my composite shape of the ice cream cone.